Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the video. Welcome to my garage. This video is going to be episode 2 of making the fiberglass rear quarter panel. And what I've done since the last video, since episode 1, is I have wet sanded the inside of the panel here, and this one edge on that panel was kind of messed up with the gel coat because I had an issue with the fiberglass mat making that tight corner at the lip. So I did sand this down before I did the wet sanding, and I bondoed that corner, so it's pretty nice now. It's pretty smooth. So there are a couple of minor blemishes on here, but I will sand those out when I actually make the part, because it'll be easier to smooth the part because the part will be bowed out, whereas this mold is bowed in, and it's a lot harder for me to smooth things when they're on the inside of a curve as opposed to when they're on the outside of a curve. So I wet sanded this to get it smoother. It's really very smooth. It's a very nice mold. I'm real happy with the mold, but there are a couple of blemishes on it, but we'll take care of those when we actually pop out the mold. What I've been doing is doing stuff like this outside because it's so stinky, but now here in Colorado, we're down in the 20s and 30s degrees Fahrenheit, which is not going to work with doing fiberglass work. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do this panel inside the garage, and I've got heat lamps set up underneath here. So what I'm going to do is, as I do the steps, when I'm done, I'll turn on the heat lamps and they'll warm up the whole panel, and then it'll let the wax and the gel coat and then the resin cure as if it was outside, and I'll just have to deal with the stink in here. good. So we're having a real whirlwind of weather here. The first day when I waxed this and put on the gel coat, it was about 35 degrees outside, which was cold. So I did the gel coat inside with the heat lamps, and it stunk and all that, but it worked. Then the next day, yesterday, was about 60 degrees and sunny. It was actually a beautiful day. So I was able to utilize that and finish the resin outside, which was great because then I didn't have any stink in the garage, and the sun cures the resin really, really fast. So yesterday I was able to do the resin and pop it out of the mold. Typically I like to give the part 24 hours in the mold before I pop it, but I knew today was going to be really cold. Today it's 19 degrees outside. This is Fahrenheit. So it was really cold out, and I knew that weather was coming, so I was working quick yesterday, so I popped it out of the mold, which you just saw, which was fine. It was fully cured. I like to give it 24 hours, so it's like 100% cured, but it was fine. So I've got my part here. I'm actually really, really happy with it. It came out very smooth considering how rough that panel was to begin with. Now, I'm gonna mount this now, but the final product of this piece, I'll actually sand it. I'll do a little bit of Bondo work because I do have a couple of blemishes here and there. I do have a little nick in here where I guess there must have been an air bubble underneath the gel coat or something. I'm not really sure. Not too worried about it. I'll easily be able to clean that stuff up, sand it, and then I'll primer it. These panels that I'm making right now, I'm calling my master panels, and I'm gonna build the bug with these master panels on. But when it comes time to actually make my final panels, I think I'm going to make a mold off of the final panels once everything's done and I have everything exactly how I want it. And then with those molds, I'll make my real body panels, which those will be gel coated in the color that I want the Baja to be, and then I'll just have decals over that. So I need to trim my edges here. I need to trim this, and I need to trim this, and I want them to be as close as possible to the other side so that everything matches. So what I've done so far is I've come over to these panels, which these right now are my master panels, but even these aren't perfect. You can see my gap here is like a ½ inch, and then I run down here, it's to 1/4. So even these need a little bit of love, but they're, as a whole, they look really, really good, and I'm quite happy with them. But I want to get this trim point and this trim point as close to identical on the other side as I can. And since the panel's all roundy and curvy, it's hard to take measurements off of that. So what I did is I made a template that if you sit over there and line it up with the body line down here, and then I trimmed it right at the edge of the panel. Then if I just take this to the other panel, boop, and flip it, and then same thing, just line it up with the edge of the window and line it up with the body line, then you can see I've got about 1.5 inches to trim up here. I'm not going to worry about trimming any of this back here because I'm going to actually clamp it up into position here, because who's to say this tube is in the exact same location as that tube. So I will let this tube dictate how much I trim off the backside there. And then I made this piece for up here. So I'm going to lay these out and then just trim or mark those lines with a little Sharpie. And then I'll take this outside and just lop those off with the grinder, clean them up, and then we can come back in here and I'll start mocking up the panel. Okay, now I've got the panel trimmed, pretty much ready to go. So what I'm going to do is the Wratchet chassis is still sitting on the build platform. I haven't taken it off yet, and it's for reasons just like this. I've got these blocks set up here, and this is the exact same blocks I set up on the other side so that I can try to keep this as level as possible. I got these blocks clamped up underneath the build platform, and then I build this up just by stacking these blocks, just like I was playing with blocks as a kid. And all they are is blocks just to get the fiberglass up to a consistent level all over the place. And now I'm going to set the panel on there on the bottom, and that's going to give me a starting point as to where to set it. It's not definite because although that is level, I'm sure the bottom of the fiberglass is not level, but it'll get me to a general elevation that I need to be at. And then I've got this piece of steel here, which is contoured the same shape as the Volkswagen bug body, which is also the same contour as this. So the door and the rear quarter are going to come up and meet on this piece. And it makes it so that if you push on these or whatever, they don't move back and forth. And if they're slightly different contours, once you bolt them to this piece, it holds them in place. And I've already welded this in place, and it's also got 2 body mounting points on it already. One is for the rear quarter, one is for the door. I did this when I was doing the other side, because anytime I make something intricate like that, if I need 2 of them, I go ahead and make 2 of them while I'm making them to keep them more accurate. And this is in the exact same location on a regular Volkswagen body where the door and the quarter would meet, because if you remember, the base dimensions of this chassis are the same dimensions as a Volkswagen bug chassis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the panel up there. I'm going to center it on here and then take it probably 1/8 of an inch back because I want to leave some distance between the quarter and the door. Okay, that's actually exciting because that fit on there really, really well. It's nice and snug around there, which is awesome. I don't know how that happened, but I'm gonna go with it. And I've got it matches the bar here just like the other side does, and I've got it running down the center of this door bar, but I've got it 1/4 of an inch set back, and it seems to be pretty perpendicular with the base, so that's great. And it is still resting on this pad, which means that it's roughly at the same elevation as the other side, which is great. I'm really pleased with this so far. Oh man, I'll tell you guys, that is a good day's work right there. 3 days this took, and it was well worth it. It's always a little bit stressful for me actually sizing them up, because with all the work that you put into the panel, you start to get afraid that it's actually not going to fit. But it fit really well. It has the contours of the original bug body. So I still have to do a final smooth and fix. That's where that bubble must have been behind the gel coat or something. But like I said, I still plan to fix this up a little bit. There's a couple of bumps there. I don't know where that came from. And a couple of little bippity-boos down here. Very minimal though. Easy stuff to just sand, put a little Bondo on there, and then I'll do some white primer on here, and it'll look amazing. I'll still have to, I still have to make rear fenders, so there's more work that's going to happen with this in the future, so I'm not going to go any farther than just the primer coat. But then, like I said, at some point when this project is actually nearing its end, I will make molds off of these parts and then take those molds to make basically copies of these, but they'll be gel coated with a color. I don't know exactly what color yet, but they'll be gel coated in the color that I want Wratchet to be, and those will be the final panels. So thanks for watching the video. This was a good one. I love when I do stuff that when I'm done, the vehicle has a feel like something significant got done, because now when you look in here, it's really starting to look like a Baja. And now my next video is going to be laying up some tube back here, because I've been wanting to get some of the structure back here going, but I couldn't do it until I had these quarters, because I'm going to have some tubes that come right along the quarter and tie into the back portion here, and I couldn't do that until both quarters were here. I do have the fuel cell, so I'm ready to start laying the structure in for that, so that's probably going to be the next video, and there's actually going to be some pretty intricate connections in there, so that should be good. And then that'll be exciting, because that will tie in a lot of the rear of the chassis, because I need to take Wratchet off of the build platform before I finish the rear suspension, and I need to get a good structure going back there before I take him off of the build platform. So either way, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope it's helping you with whatever you're working on, and I hope to see you on the next video. Take care.